Hello and welcome to this edition of Car Conversations, where I am 10 minutes later than usual on my commute, and boy is there a lot of traffic as a result. Yes, okay. Gosh. And this lights out being... Anyway, no drama, happy days talking to you. So today on Car Conversations I want to talk about the Joe Rogan phenomenon. Never know the difference between the two. If there was any person that I could meet living right now on this earth, it would be Joe Rogan, for the very good reason that I think he's probably the most valuable, important, incredible person in media right now. Joe, if you don't know, was the host of Fear Factor back in the day, back when he still had some hair. But essentially he comes from a background of being a stand-up comedian, taekwondo, martial artist person, and general all-round good guy, from what it seems. But not only that, not only is he just a good guy, but I think he's taken the medium of podcasting officially. Many people can lay claim to this, but there's no doubt that Joe took it to another stratosphere. He really put it on the map, and he made it something that has become a mainstream success and a mainstream medium. So when I say mainstream, traditionally all the things that were mainstream were news networks like CNN, BBC, Sky, MSNBC, all of those. Turn the TV on, that's it. And then you'd have radio across the world and all those kind of things. But slowly but surely, the integrity of those platforms has become absolutely worthless. I mean, let's be honest. News networks nowadays are so divisive. All they're doing is they take news, they put a skew onto it, and they basically just sell it as emotion entertainment. So it really isn't good. And I think when you look at the ratings, it's falling more and more nowadays. That's not how a four-way stop works. Fucking hell. Yes, you stay. Alright, cool. Third world. Sorry, what I was saying about news networks, they used to be the mainstream, and many people believe that they still are because they're so easily accessible, of course. You just turn a TV on and you sit there and you just consume it like a glutton. All the shit that they keep giving you, all the emotion they've put you on tenterhooks about everything from COVID to global warming. It's a whole shit show. Joe Rogan, in my mind, is the new mainstream because people don't actually want that woke bullshit news that just gets fed to them with their agendas and the narratives. People actually don't want that. People who are lazy enough to only seek that out and consume it, that's all they know. It's like people with bad diets. They all ultimately want to be healthier and live better. So what Joe Rogan has become in the whole media sense is that he is actually this greater diet of information. Not only that, it's hugely entertaining what he does. I mean, he has these long podcasts, which I've been listening to probably for about 5 years now, with the most interesting people in the world. So think about it, right? If you're watching News Network, you'll have political analysts. Most of these people are barely employed, and they really aren't that smart. And they've also done kind of fuck all in life, other than just be present at certain things or subscribe to certain issues. Joe Rogan, on the other hand, talks to some of the most iconic, interesting, successful, and brilliant people in this world about the things that we are all talking about. So straight away, there's a lot more integrity in this platform, and he's got bigger audiences than CNN and all those other shit shows. So you can get to learn so much because it's unedited, it is unrestricted, it is free as can be with media. And in a 3-hour conversation, it's amazing what you can learn. He talks to scientists, politicians even. I mean, he had a long conversation with Bernie Sanders. Just an example of how diverse he goes. He talks to world leaders in a variety of things. Doctors, sports stars, actors. I think I said actors already. Anyway, there is not a famous person on this world, or close to, that Joe hasn't engaged with on a level that made a lot of sense. Like, I really have learned so much, and you get different perspectives on topics. And the great thing about that is that, why you get different perspectives on topics is because Joe is such an incredible host that he doesn't corner people with narratives. He doesn't corner them into agreeing with him on certain things. He just has an open conversation. The guy's not sitting there with notes and formatted ways of going about things. He just wants to get to know someone, what makes them tick, and in doing so, uncovers a huge wealth of insights and perspective on things. So no matter who the person is, you're going to learn something. So much so you develop a hunger to want to actually carry on the conversation somewhere else. So you start looking for that person in other mediums. You do other research around certain things. And that is such a valuable thing, because what Joe is essentially doing is he's just basically bringing conversation back. Nowadays, there's so much hate and mistrust and a whole bunch of shit in this world because I think people have lost the art to converse. Now, one of the biggest arts, or one of the biggest factors of conversation, is to be able to listen. He listens. He doesn't shout over people. He, like I said, doesn't corner people into certain ideas and opinions. So by giving that ability to get people to talk about things, we can learn. News networks and social media, there is no listening capacity. It's just all on, shouting and just being really abrasive about opinions, which is cool if you like living in echo chambers and you want to live by one way. A lot of people actually just find that that's how they're going to function in life. Good for them. But I think on the greater scheme of things, when people look for role models or mentors or personalities that have a huge positive influence on life, Joe Rogan, in my mind, is without doubt the number one person out there that I think is really changing landscapes for the better. News networks, as I keep going back to, are very abrasive. You know, there's just, like, you always just fired up and, like, it's just abrasive. That's probably the best word, abrasive. Coarse. The headline news with a big red, like, scrolling bar. Joe Rogan, on the other hand, he's a very loving kind of guy. I mean, that's probably another way to describe him, is that he wants to understand more. He's the first person to say when he doesn't understand something and he wants a different perspective. Obviously, people will sort of like label him as being right-wing, you know, a product of toxic masculinity because of the way he looks and the sports he likes and the opinions that he has. But ultimately, I think where he is centered, he's just centered on a lot of sort of like common sense and decent morals. And unfortunately, the political landscape is so fucked up right now. That will make you right-wing. Being more centrist is deemed as right-wing nowadays, because if you're not subscribing to all the woke bullshit, then you're seen as right-wing, which in itself is so fucking stupid. It really is. It gets me all worked up and angry. So I'll just change lanes and simmer down a bit. So if you haven't got into Joe Rogan's podcast, you don't think it's for you, well, just look at the sheer diversity of guests. Yes, he started out this podcast as literally a little bit of fun, getting stoned with his comedian mates, and then eventually it got bigger and bigger because it was so genuine. It goes back to the whole thing, is that this is why he's a mainstream success, is because people actually want this kind of content. They don't want to be fed all the bullshit that people think people want. And he's just a huge success around this. You know, Spotify gave him this multi-million, I think it's $100 million deal or whatever, because they were progressive enough to realize that he is actually the proper mainstream. Something that's sustainable, something that's likable, and something that's healthy, and something that's positive. And everything about the dude I just find so absolutely inspirational. You know, you go onto YouTube and you can obviously watch certain clips from his show. On top of that, you know, you see all these motivation channels and charisma channels that I really enjoy picking up on certain things, because it just gives you basics around what, you know, what it's like to be more successful and speak better. And Joe just has so many great fundamentals, and he lives by his word. He really does. The guy works out. He's super strong. He's an icon of the UFC, which is a really incredible organization. He's still so active as a stand-up comedian, which takes obviously huge confidence and a lot of personality. He's just an incredibly likable guy. He's doing what he wants to do, and he's just living a life the way he wants to. So all these cliches that people just want to do, Joe Rogan's doing it, and he's doing it in a way that is just so natural and normal. And that is why, through all the different phases that people go through, all the different trends that they want to subscribe to, Joe Rogan's going to be Joe Rogan. He'll be a huge success forever and ever. He'll be remembered as someone who's changed the landscape in many good, positive ways. So if you haven't got into it, give his podcast a try. I tell you, you won't regret it. And yeah, that's my car conversation for today. Roll in title.